So I'm Johnny Harper. I am with the University of Missouri Extension. I'm the county engagement specialist for Morgan County. And we cover our office is Morgan and Moniteau counties. So that's kind of where we're at. Elaine's on and she's the county engagement specialist for Moniteau County. So you guys, I appreciate everybody being on. This is kind of our first endeavor of Mo Eats, bringing a conversation to the community. And we've been working on this for quite a while. We went through all the steps and we were going to launch a community conversation. We're going to have town hall meetings. And then something hit last year that we all know. And so having face-to-face meetings wasn't quite the most thing that the safest way of doing things. So we kind of put things on hold. And this is part of our kind of series that we're doing. So Mo Eats is what it is. It's in Moniteau County. It's also a program that Bill put on. And so there's other pilots or projects going on in other counties. But it's basically how do we initiate a conversation with the community about how they want to look at their food resiliency in the county. And it can take on a lot of different forms. But first, getting a concept of how does people in the county or the community see their food and how it's distributed, how accessible it is to everybody, and then coming up with things that the community cares about and bringing more of a resilient food supply on. So it's kind of just a group of people who care about Moniteau County and the community and kind of how our food system works and starting in a conversation. Part of that conversation is basically doing a community conversation kind of like this. So we're bringing in subject matters that people might spark some people's interest, and maybe we can launch this in Moniteau County. It might not look exactly like how it's being presented, but we needed a way to go forward on this mission. So welcome everybody, and I'm going to hand it off to Jeannie. Can I hand it off to you?
Sure.
You
And
can fill in all the blanks that I missed.
okay, I think you covered it really well. Why don't we go ahead and introduce who we are so everybody knows who's on the conversation. I'm Jeannie Heuser, and I'm the president of the Moniteau County Neighbors Alliance. And I've been working with Extension from the beginning. I sort of have bugged them and tortured them into doing this program in Moniteau County. So we're doing it, and I'm real excited that we're doing this. So, and our Moniteau County Neighbors Alliance, our mission is to support community health and economic well-being through education and advocacy. So that's what we're trying to do with Missouri Eats. We see an economic development potential here for our county that could really be great of creating more local food sources basically, and getting the processing facilities and the delivery systems and all the pieces of the food cycle in place so that we can get more food from the farm to the people that need it. And that's our goal, and it should keep us busy for a long time. So let's go to Bill. Why don't you describe who you are?
Hi, everybody. My name's Bill McKelvey, and I'm a project coordinator with University of Missouri Extension. I'm based on campus in Columbia, and I am the state project coordinator for Missouri Eats, among other things. And Johnny did a great job of introducing the program and explaining what it is. And just so you know, some of the other communities that are participating in similar types of conversations, we have programs in Smithville, Missouri, which is north of Kansas City, Pulansky County, and also North St. Louis County, the community of Pine Lawn. And so this is really an attempt to have conversations and to really kind of unearth what it is that folks want to do as it relates to food and farming, health, the environment, anything that really touches the food system, and then think about ways to move those ideas and different priorities forward. So thanks everybody for participating.
Okay, how about Jan? Jan's on the steering committee for our local group.
Hi, I am Jen Millard with Central Missouri Community Action. I am a community organizer for Moniteau County as well as Osage County. And I got contacted by Jeannie to, join this group, and I'm very excited to see what we can do together. So thank you for having me.
Great. And how about Elaine? You're on the local leadership team too.
I am. So I am Elaine Anderson, and like Johnny said before, I'm Moniteau County engagement specialist, but I also cover 4-H. That's kind of my focus, and I cover Morgan, Moniteau, Cooper, Laclede, and Camden counties in 4-H and youth development. So happy to be on this call today.
And how about Lisa?
My name is Lisa Guillory, and I'm the secretary of MICNA, and have great interest in the Missouri Eats program. I have been on the board of the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture for 6 years, but I am cycling off the board in 1 week, I think, Billy, or 5 days, something like that. And so that's about it.
Great. Okay, so then we've got people that aren't on the local leadership team to introduce, and I'll just say that anyone that would like to join the local leadership team is welcome to. We're still recruiting, but we're starting to get a pretty good core base here. So how about Mary Ann? Can you unmute yourself, Mary Ann? Or are you just listening today? Well, let's go on to Vandy.
Hey everyone, I am Vandy Miller. I am having some technical difficulties, so sorry I don't have a camera on today. But I live in California and I work for Burrell Behavioral Health as a director of operations for the Central Region. And I personally just think that some sort of project like this will be great for the California area. So I'm just interested to see how I can be involved. I also, along with Jen with CMCA, represent Moniteau County Healthy Lifestyles, which is a substance abuse reduction coalition. We just recently achieved coalition status. And I think maybe there are ways that we could operate together, perhaps on different goals. We would like to teach people how a healthy lifestyle can replace perhaps some other habits that they may have or may be tempted with. So there's just a couple different aspects that I'm looking at there.
Okay, thank you. And it is really great. We're cross-pollinating. I see a lot of cross-pollination going on. That's something I heard people describe of how you get your organizations cross-pollinating between them, because everybody's doing a little bit, and I'm just pushing food. And like when I got on Healthy Lifestyles, I said, well, what about the food? What about the food? What about so I'm pushing the food aspect everywhere. Okay, looks like Mary Ann. Did you get on, Mary Ann?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm having trouble with video and everything, so I'll just talk.
Okay, we're just introducing. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm Mary Ann Marty, and I live north of California, north of California. I am the secretary and treasurer of Moniteau County Crime Watch, which is just one aspect of our organization. We really started out as a preparedness group, and not the sort of hunker down with guns kind of preppers, but just being self-sufficient and strengthening our community. People who are interested in working together in the community. So when I heard about Jeannie's program, or the whole Mo Eats program, I thought that this would be a good program to introduce to our group. We have a lot of retired farmers and law enforcement people. Just it's a interesting demographic, but a lot of people, sort of what I call the old time locals around here, who have a long history of self-sufficiency. And I would be really interested in getting their point of view and how if they even think about how they could get the community food system sort of more locally based, and because there's a huge skill set here, and it'd be really neat to get that more on a local base for the growers and consumers as well. So I'm just interested in the whole project and just want to learn about it from you all. Thanks.
Thank you. And how about Barb? How about you next?
I'm Barb Mannering. We're having trouble with the pictures too, but I operate the Moniteau Christian Ministry Center food pantry called Cargill Cares, and as actually met Jeannie through her husband, who volunteers here with us. And we in the past have worked with Bill McKelvey from the university. He's got us started in our gardening program quite a few years ago with a 2-year grant, got everything going strong. And so we were interested in listening to him, as well as the other Bill that we haven't listened to. We saw the numbers of the pounds that he's produced, and it impressed us greatly. So we'd like to know how to make our garden bigger.
And could you introduce who you're with there?
I'm with my gardener, Laverne Bender.
Yeah, pronounced Bender.
Bender.
Binder.
And he kind of stepped in when Bill got us started and has continued to help us with our garden. We'd like to see the kind of numbers that your Billy is showing. We are a very small garden in comparison.
Great. Okay, and we've got Cindy Walker.
Hi, I'm Cindy Walker. I am Nutrition Program Associate for MU Extension in Morgan and Moniteau County. Pardon the hat, I've been out at a food pantry distribution in the rain passing out materials today. So I am excited to be here and see what you have going on.
Great, and Susan? Can you unmute, Susan, and tell us who you are? Well, I can tell you who she is. Susan Williams lives in Cooper County, and she is has a cow-calf operation there, and is very oh, here she is. Are you on?
Yeah, you just go right ahead and say what you want to say about me.
Well, I really like her a lot. You can talk about who you are.
I was having trouble getting unmuted. I live just north of the Cooper Moniteau line near Clarksburg, Missouri. We have a 60 cow-calf operation. We're pretty self-sufficient. Raised big garden, just used the last of last year's potatoes last week. And we also raise pasture-raised hogs on the side for our neighbors. So, and I'm just here to listen.
Okay, well, that's great. I saw Susie Bartlett on here, but we must have lost her. So I guess we'll just move on to Lisa, and you were going to introduce Billy because you've been working with him for so long, and then we'll have his presentation.
Okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Billy Polansky. For 12 years, Billy's been the executive director for the Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture. He's been instrumental in developing many partnerships with other agencies and organizations and businesses that support CCUA's programs and advance CCUA's mission. So today, Billy's going to tell us about some of those partnerships. And Billy, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. I have 15 minutes is what they told me. So I'm gonna try to tell you all the things that we do and leave a little bit of time for questions, and then there will be some discussion. But I think it was mentioned before that, you know, what we're doing here in Columbia isn't necessarily gonna match, you know, be the exact same thing that maybe can be done in Moniteau. But I think the purpose of this is just to share ideas of different possibilities, to kind of, you know, spark those ideas. So keep that in mind as I'm going through these, and I'm not going to get into too much detail because we have a lot of different programs, and I want to make sure that you kind of see all the different things we do. So Columbia Center for Urban Agriculture has been around since 2009. Trying to advance my slides here. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So our mission is to enhance the community's health by connecting people to agriculture and the land through hands-on learning opportunities from seed to plate. So, you know, for us being in the city, it's really important that to engage people in agriculture, for them to see it, for kids to get their hands dirty, to try to help make that connection to agriculture for people who don't see it every day, who don't you know, don't have that as a part of their life, bring them a little bit closer to their food. So in 2010, we worked with a local landlord to get access to this property right here, which turned into our urban farm. It's about 1.3 acres. And at the time, we were a group of all volunteer, 20-something recent college graduates in an economic recession. And we just kind of had a crazy idea that we wanted to grow food. So this is a photo of that same property last year. This is from 2020. And on that site, we grow about half to about 2/3 of an acre of produce. This is this became our, so this site was our headquarters for about 10 years, and we're actually at a new site now, but we still have this original farm, and we're using it in conjunction with the VA hospital, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But this site, you know, we were regularly growing, you know, 17,000 pounds of food. We could get from really just half to 2/3 of an acre. It was intensely managed, and there was, you know, when we harvested one crop, the next one went in, and so we got many harvests out of the same space in the same year. But 17,000 pounds of food on a fairly small piece of land. So I have a video that I want to show you about our Planting for the Pantry program. I feel like this really describes it better than I could. And, you know, essentially Planting for the Pantry is we get people to sponsor rows at our farm, at our urban farm, or at the agriculture park. And with those row sponsorships, it provides us with money to grow the food and donate it to the food pantry. So start this video.
When people stop, which happens almost weekly, and they ask what's happening with the produce that we're growing here at the Ag Park, when we tell them that our donors and funders have paid for that to be able to be donated to the central pantry, the look on people's face of how warm and kind of the warm fuzzy that leaves them with is remarkable. To be able to lay really fresh green, orange, yellow, red produce on boxes at the central pantry is incredible, and the donors and funders definitely make that happen. They make that a reality.
All right. How do I get out of here? Oh, no. Okay. Have we moved on from the video? Can you all see what I'm looking at now?
Yes, yeah, you've
Okay.
moved on.
So that's our plan for the pantry program. We grow food, we bring it to the food pantry. We have donors who help make that happen. This site right here is Columbia's Agriculture Park. This is our new home base. Like I said, we were at the urban farm for about 10 years. And at this site here, it's a partnership. This is a city park, so it's in partnership with Columbia Parks and Rec. Also a partnership with the Columbia Farmers Market. So that big building at the top of the page you can see is the farmers market. And eventually this site will have about 3 acres of produce and fruits and vegetables that we're growing and taking to the food pantry. Our goal here is that eventually this site will produce about 50,000 pounds of food for the food pantry every year. We also have our office here, educational facilities, sidewalks, our barn and greenhouse. Really, really exciting, cool stuff going on. And anybody who's in town, I'd love to give you a tour of what we've got so far. It's still being built. Okay. Oh, yeah. So this is a little aerial footage of kind of that same thing. So you saw that was our master plan, and you can see it's kind of coming together. So, you know, and again, like partnerships. We couldn't have started that park without our partnership with the Parks Department, with the farmers market. You know, we use lots of volunteers. So having volunteers, you know, for us, we usually get a lot of volunteers from the university. Our groups of volunteers kind of fall into 2 categories: for college students and retirees. There are some folks in between, but most of those people have, you know, are working full-time jobs and have families and have less time to volunteer. So you know, in a normal non-COVID year, we have lots of volunteers, you know, upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 hours of volunteer time, in addition to our staff who run all these programs too. So finding partnerships for your volunteers will be really important. Another program, so our original Urban's Farm is now our Veterans Urban Farm. Our partnership is with the Truman VA Hospital, and workers from their transitional work program, they get paid to work at the site, and it's also job training for them. The VA brings out patients who are doing therapy programs, some of their healthy teaching kitchen and whole health initiatives use the site as well. Our plants program is essentially the fun part. We get kids dirty. They get to come out and harvest these carrots, and we get to they get to investigate what's in the soil, and it integrates with their science and art and reading that they're doing in school already. And what's great is that we have this site, which we're growing food at, because we grow food for the food pantry, but it's also an educational site. So we're layering in all of these different benefits into one location. We have our Opportunity Gardens program, where this is off-site for us. We work with low-income families, and we teach them how to be successful home gardeners. So a family applies to the program. We help build a garden in their backyard. Sometimes it's a raised bed, like you see in the picture here. Here's another picture of one of our gardeners. Sometimes the gardens are just tilled in the ground. Sometimes they're buckets on the patio. We kind of start people out where we don't want to. One of our taglines is a small success is better than a big failure. So we don't want to till up somebody's whole yard, have it turn to weeds, and they don't grow anything. We'd rather them be really good at maybe a couple of tomato plants their first year, and then you can kind of increase that because when people are learning, we don't want them to be overwhelmed. We've had a lot of success with this program. It's really great. It empowers people to grow their own food. And they get to do it in their backyards. They get to involve their families and their children and their neighbors. Really awesome stuff. We have our Garden Pro service, where we essentially people can hire us to do gardening work, and sometimes those are people in their backyard. Sometimes it's local businesses too. So one of the things we do is we care for people's fruit trees. We do pruning and spraying and things like that. These ones on the right-hand side are actually in public housing in Columbia. So the Housing Authority, they have a landscaping budget. They need trees. So they pay us to take care of these fruit trees. And when the fruit is ready, people who live in the neighborhood can eat it. So that's a great partnership with the Columbia Housing Authority. And our Opportunity Gardens program that I just mentioned, a lot of those families who we work with and teach them how to garden live in public housing. And we have a partnership with the Housing Authority as well, because you need the landlord's permission, of course, if you're just going to go in and tear up the yard. So another one of our businesses that we work with is Kilgore's Pharmacy. They started the Kilgore's Community Garden. It's on Providence Road in Columbia. They have a couple of locations, but this is where the garden is, next to their store. And they've partnered with a daycare, a low-income daycare, for years. It's just down the street, and they wanted to grow fresh food and put it in the kids' lunches. They have a cook there, and the kids get fresh lunches every day. So Kilgore's hires us to take care of the garden, to run the volunteer work days, and to bring the food to that Norris Stewart Early Learning Center. So for them, they're pharmacists. They're going to do what they do best, but they still wanted to have this garden. And for their staff go out there. They eat lunch in the garden. It's a nice, peaceful place for people to sit while they're waiting for their prescriptions to be filled. It's a really neat project that Kilgore's started. Here's some of the kids from the daycare. There's Anne, one of the pharmacists, who this was her brainchild. So that was as fast as I could go. and I'm sure that I missed some things, but you know, we can work with businesses. You can work with governments. You can work with you know, groups who want to come and volunteer, whether it's with you know, like a partnership. You know, we've been, like I said, for volunteers, we've been working with the university, and they have a service learning program. But we also started working with the senior center in Columbia this year. They have a newsletter, and we can put articles in it about volunteering every month. They have a 20-page newsletter, and so we've started to work with the senior center to recruit more seniors to come and volunteer. So, but also we have groups that come out, church groups, homeschool groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, fraternities, workplaces. A lot of workplaces now are doing volunteering, where Friday afternoon, they'll take the whole staff out, and instead of working at work, they give back to the community. And you know, they'll bring their employees out. They do a couple hours of volunteering. Maybe there's some pizza. Maybe they take them to the bar afterwards. Maybe they don't. But it's a lot of workplaces are trying to make that a fun give back type of activity, team building for the staff and things like that too. So there's lots of different ways that you can connect with groups and get volunteers out. I don't know how much. Are there any questions? Is that or do you want to? What are we doing now?
Sure. Do people have questions of Billy?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Hey, Barb, if you were asking a question, you might have to get really close to, or get closer to your mic. We weren't hearing all of that. Barb, is anybody else hearing Barb?
No.
And you are not muted. And we could hear you earlier.
Push chat, would that bring me open?
No, but we can hear you now.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My question was that you keep referring to a food pantry that you're providing this for. Is it the pantry in Columbia, or is it the food bank?
That's a great question. So we mostly work with the central pantry, which is, it's operated by the food bank, which is kind of unique because they don't really operate any other food pantries. But that's the big one here in Columbia.
That answers my question. Okay. Yeah, they actually operate that.
And so something we work with the pantry too, we meet with them every year and talk about the crops that do really well, or the things that they need more than others. So we grow a lot of fresh greens and things like that, and a lot of the times when the greens kind of they get a lot of their produce. I'm sure maybe you all do too. It kind of comes through the grocery rescue, I think is what they call it. And by the time lettuce is like weeks and weeks old, it doesn't look very nice. And so some of these more perishable things are what we provide, and we bring it super fresh the week that it's harvested. And so we really try to focus on for example, the pantry, the central pantry, they buy semi-truckloads of potatoes. They buy crates and crates of watermelons. We don't focus on that because that's not a need they have, and it takes more space. So we try to be space efficient. We can grow a lot of greens, and that serves kind of their need.
Billy, I have a question of how much land you are gardening there. What's the square footage of your garden that's producing all of this? Or is it acres, or How big is it?
So here at the agriculture park, last year was our first like full year of production here. And we were growing on about 1/2 acre. And at our other site, we were growing on about 1/2 acre. And together we produced around 30,000 pounds between those two sites. So roughly, I mean, yeah, so roughly around maybe 30,000 pounds an acre. And depending what you grow, I mean, the pounds are really very, because a pound of lettuce is a lot of lettuce versus a pound of, watermelon, so it's going to vary depending on what you decide to grow. And a lot of the things we grow too, I'll point out, is that are more labor intensive. Growing potatoes and watermelons, you can, there's not as much hand labor necessarily in growing that than there is maybe carrots or lettuce, which, they have a lot of washing and, things like that. But we have a lot of volunteers, so we can do that. So what you grow will vary depending on how much space you have and how much help you have.
Hey, Billy, there's a question in the chat. It says, do you have any programs encouraging local gardeners to donate extra produce to the food pantry and/or to plant extra for the purpose of donation?
So that is, Bill, at the CGC, do you all do Plant a Row for the Hungry at the Community Garden Coalition?
Not specifically. We used to do a little more outreach to at least let folks know that donating was a possibility. And we still do include some of that information in some of our kind of outreach materials. But no, we don't participate with that program specifically.
We've been talking to the Central Pantry recently and the food bank recently about maybe having a campaign to encourage that, because that is, it makes a lot of sense. Folks who are growing would, many of them would likely, grow an extra row or an extra, spot in their garden for donation. And so a lot of where that gets tricky is that people can't just drop it off at any time necessarily, and not all, there's maybe 20 or 30 food pantries in Boone County. They don't all have refrigeration. They're not all, set up, open every day of the week. So there need to be kind of, on our end, at least more coordination with where to go, when to go. And I know the Central Pantry, they're open 6 days a week, and they do take donations from gardeners.
That does remind me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to mention, I'll put a link in the chat. There was a program that I helped to create a few years ago called Plant, Grow, and Share, which is similar to a Plant a Row program. But mainly we were just trying to provide resources to help groups make the connection. So helping a gardener understand what was required if they're going to make a donation. And then also thinking about how pantries could reach out. So there's a few resources on that website, and I'll put that link in the chat.
Well, and I was going to say, Teresa, the cook at the Nutrition Center, said that through the growing season, she's completely filled with donations of food from the community already that she's just supplied all summer long. So we've got it happening spontaneously. And Barb, didn't you say something? You're getting all your produce from what Laverne's growing, correct? For the food pantry?
Not all. Not
Oh.
all. Some of it comes from the food bank. Some of it comes from local farmers.
But you could then you would be able to take additional food at the food bank if you had storage for it and if it came at a proper time that suits when your pickups are.
Yep. We get quite a bit from the food bank, but it's like what Billy was talking about. It's potatoes, fruits, apples, oranges, bananas, not carrots or lettuce or celery or those kind of things. It's the larger grown things.
So Billy, with us trying to get this started in Moniteau County, what would be your advice of where to start, or just what advice would you have?
So, you know, if we're thinking about getting fresh food into the food pantry, you know, I would think like what, you know, and you've got the right people in the room here. What does the pantry need? How, what, you know, what if people come, families come and nobody wants the bananas, but everybody's asking for, you know, carrots, then, you know, try to figure that out. And I think it would be really good. It seems like there is, with what Laverne's growing and with what these other donations that seem to be coming in, that you kind of have a group of people who are interested. But if you had a really clear way for them to get, because it sounds like maybe at the kitchen, where you're getting those donations, you're not necessarily asking for them, and which probably means you don't necessarily need them all, and maybe they're not all being used because they're coming and it doesn't, you know, I'm not sure. But if you had a real obvious need, if you said, we need you to grow carrots and tomatoes, or you know, maybe a list of things that are needed more than others, and you know, dates and times, you know, every Tuesday at 4 o'clock, you know, whenever that a drop off could be, you could really have a strong message to community members who want to help and give them a way to plug into that that's more predictable and reliable.
I had another question about your opportunity gardens where you're helping people get started. Do you continue to follow up with them year after year, or it sounded like you go to that much effort of staying in touch?
Yeah, so that program, we work with the families for 3 years, up to 3 years. And everybody's different. Some people, you know, they grew up gardening and maybe just hadn't for a long time and want to start back up, aren't sure where to start. And there's even in Colombia, there's refugee families who were farmers in the country they came from, but now they're here and they don't understand the climate or the type of crops that you can grow here. And then there's folks who are terrified of the outdoors. They come out, they put those rubber exam gloves on. They're not going to get any dirt under their fingernails, but they want to try. You know, they're trying to overcome this sort of fear that, you know, of the outdoors that maybe they've had, and there a lot of those folks are trying to improve their health. Folk, you know, who maybe didn't grow up gardening, but want more fruits and vegetables. Maybe they can't afford them, and so there's a lot of different ways that we don't help everybody the same way, because some people know more than others. Some people are more physically able than some folks. You know, we have one woman who's in a wheelchair, and we built her a raised bed garden that's kind of sets up that she can garden from her chair. But some of these refugee families who were farmers, we just till up their whole yard. They want as much space they can grow on as possible, because that's what they're used to. that's what they want to be doing. But yeah, we stick with them for 3 seasons because there's a lot of mistakes you can make when you're gardening, and you can garden every year your whole life and you'll learn something new every year. It doesn't, there's always something to learn. So we help them get through those first few years where in a lot of ways we're like a accountability buddy, kind of like a personal trainer. You know, get out there and make sure you're watering, you don't forget to weed. And we bring them supplies and things like that too. And we provide all the supplies for free so that, you know, when we show up, we have the seeds, we have maybe some compost, and help them get going. And so, you know, that's possibly something that, you know, or some version of that, that you all could do too, if, you know, if you had maybe the food pantry as a site where people could come and learn how to garden, or maybe you could, something we do too, is at the central pantry once a year, we'll give out tomatoes in 5-gallon buckets. We'll give out these little bucket gardens. And so like it sounds like you already do the seed giveaways, but you can do seed plant giveaways. You could give a tour of your garden and maybe help inspire people to do it at home on their own. There's, you know, different ways you can get people thinking about growing their own food.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about that program. And so I'll probably be reaching out to you so I don't take up everyone's time on that program. But yeah, I would love to hear more about that program and how it goes and everything.
So Mark has a question here, my husband, and it's a magical thing that it seems like you've done in Columbia there in just 10 years of all these programs you've got going. And there's a question of how you fund all of it. I heard little pieces where, you know, the business will pay for you to come in and do something, but overall, you've got big funding needs, obviously, and we're wondering how you're doing that part, and then also just the magic of how your operation has grown. It just seems like the community is plugging into it in all these different ways, and I'm wondering if that was just a kind of organic process that once you get one thing going, it spreads to another thing and it just morphs into different projects.
I'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
So that it's really the partnerships are what get people involved. So if we kind of have different target audiences here. So we're growing food for the food pantry, which gets folks who are interested in food security and hunger. We're working with the public schools. And so we, you know, in a normal non-COVID year, we have over 20,000 interactions with school children. And so people who are interested in children's health or education get plugged in that way. We have our partnership with the VA hospital. And so now we have a group that's, who are interested in veterans issues, who are a part of our programming. And then also working with healthcare. Somebody here, I think, was from Burrell. And so partnering with healthcare is sort of something that we've done, the VA being one example. But also we're starting a gardening program this year with Phoenix, which is a rehab center here in Columbia for drug and alcohol rehabilitation. And we're going to help them start a garden, and their therapists are going to use it as a part of that treatment that they give. And so there's partnering with healthcare institutions is kind of, in Columbia, there's a lot of them, but even in Moniteau County too, you have clinics and hospitals, and there's opportunities for partnership there too. And so everybody, it also helps that everybody eats. That's one of our main things, is that everybody eats, and so we can partner with anybody. It's that simple, and it's, people are starting to think about more, people are thinking more about what they eat and their diet and eating fruits and vegetables. It's maybe you call it a trend right now. And so we are, we're taking advantage of that this is something that people are interested in. And if we can provide them with a hands-on opportunity to get involved with that, then we will. The first question was about money. Yeah, sometimes we just have to be shameless about asking people for money. And we have as over time, we've developed a staff of people who can do fundraising. But one of the simplest things I'd say with our Planting for the Pantry program is that we break it, we break it down into, sponsor a row, or sponsor a half a row or a quarter row. And excuse me, it makes it really tangible, a really sort of thing that people can grasp their head around. I used to work for Heifer International. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them, or maybe you bought a goat for Christmas or something. They use the same thing. People understand, oh, I'm buying a goat for this family so that they can be self-sufficient. With our Planting for the Pantry, we take a sort of similar approach in asking. We're not asking for money, we're asking for produce for families. And so, yeah, asking for money is awkward, and but it kind of makes the world go round, I guess, and helps get us what we need. But we just layer in the different values. It's not just food. Once we have this garden, then kids can come in and learn and how food grows, and then we have a site where we can bring veterans to do therapy. So it's not just one thing. It serves kind of all these different interest groups or target audiences at the same time.
So it's really your garden. The garden is almost number one step, to have a garden that attracts a lot of activity. Would you say that?
Yeah, if you had a garden, and if you just like if you had a garden that was operating and growing food for your pantry, sort of once you get that going, then you can figure out ways to stack on other benefits to that, because then you have a showcase, you have a classroom, if you will, that that can be used to do these other things.
Well, Billy, this has really been great, and we have to wind it up now. Does anybody have any final questions or anything that's got to be said right this minute?
Jeannie, this is Cindy Walker. I just wanted to kind of interject that California Elementary School, one of the programs that I teach is Eating from the Garden. In the elementary school I've taught, I'm getting ready to teach second grade, but up through sixth grade during summer school with the gardening there. And Mr. Baker is currently working on trying to get a greenhouse and secure funding for that. So there is some interest in Moniteau County on the public school level in gardening and teaching that. And so that's something that I can do and have been involved in doing.
Well, that's excellent. And aren't you starting another program with 4-H in Jamestown with the Eating from the Garden too?
That is Laura Bappler. She is our youth program associate with 4-H. And so I've been coaching her and helping her to get started with that, as that's a new program for her to teach as well.
Great. Well, we really need to follow up with you on that. One of the things I'd like to do is we meet every fourth Thursday of the month via Zoom. Bill sets up a Zoom meeting for us, and everyone is welcome to participate. It's exactly the time we're doing now, 2:30 to 3:30, the fourth Thursday of the month. And if it's all right with everyone that's on this call, I'll add you to our mailing list, and I'll just let you know when those what we're going to be discussing at those meetings, and you might want to participate. Is that okay if I add everybody to that list?
That's where it's coming from.
No, I mean,
Well,
like the
I will
future
do that. And we also have, we'll have another one of these more community-wide conversations. We're planning for June 24th. We're thinking of doing these quarterly. So you might pencil that in on your calendar, June 24th. And then I sent out an agenda today that was very late, but if you could open that afterwards, I've got some links in there for you to follow up on. And one of them is the Missouri Food Finder that we started publishing. They have changed their name to Show Me Food. So it's going to be a little bit confusing here for a while, but it's a really great resource. And I'd like you to pass that link around to anybody that's growing food that wants it distributed to people. This is a great place to start on the Show Me Food website. And it's another extension product, and it's really great. So thank you so much, Billy, for your presentation today. And I'm feeling kind of fired up here. It's like,
Me
oh,
too.
where should we start? It's really great.
Yeah, you have so many
Any-
opportunities, whether it's with the public schools, school gardens, or working with your FFA or 4-H groups. You know, that's a great great resources there. So I think, yeah, you have a lot of opportunities.
Right, and I think Laverne, you're still there, aren't you?
In the food pantry, yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
Laverne, yeah. It looks like you've got the garden. You've got the garden. You've already started doing one of the things Billy's saying is the most important thing to do is that garden.
Yeah, we've had it for several years now.
Would you like any help over there?
Well, my biggest problem is fighting some of these plant diseases.
Uh,
For that, I don't know. Some of the stuff we did like last year was a pretty good year, but growing things like cantaloupe, melons is virtually a no-go. Something gets them.
mhm.
Yeah.
Now, sweet potatoes do fine, green beans do fine, but the snowy mildew disease, whatever you call it, takes a heavy toll.
Well, maybe we could hook up with CCUA in Columbia and share experiences with what you can grow that doesn't have problems like that. And we might, I think we've got a good connection here that we can maybe learn from. And well, I appreciate you all being on the call, and we will be in touch.
Thank you
See you
so much,
next time.
Billy. This is, like Jeannie said, this has really got me fired up now and ready to go.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Billy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.